Hey everyone, my name's Kristen and welcome to my Cathedral garden. If you're new here, I'm so excited that you're here. A little bit about me is I am a former elementary education teacher who is now homeschooling her kiddos. I have 4 of them and 3 of them are school age. So I have a 4th grader, a 2nd grader, and a kindergartner this year. And then we have a 3-year-old little girl just running around in the mix. And today we are talking about my homeschool journey. And this is pretty exciting because not only is it me being able to share my story with you guys, but it is also my first time hosting a collaboration, and I'm giddy about it. So I'm going to share with you my journey into homeschooling, our why, and how we kind of ended up here. And then I'm also going to link in the description box below a playlist where you can go watch a few other mamas and them talk about their journey and their story and maybe even their why for homeschooling. So it's pretty exciting, and I hope that you enjoy just learning more about these ladies and more about all the different avenues and ways that we get led into this very one specific thing. So come join us. Okay, I am going to attempt to make this much shorter and to just not talk your ear off. So, in all honesty, growing up, I never expected to homeschool my kids. I grew up in a family full of educators. Both my parents were teachers, and my dad's mom was a teacher as well as her mom. So my dad's grandmother, my great-grandmother. Whenever I got my teaching degree and started my first teaching job, I was the 4th generation teacher and the 5th one, because we counted both my parents, to work at that particular school. And we all graduated from the same place, like college-wise. So it was something that I just expected to always do. My mom was always a teacher, and it had just been that way my entire life. So fast forward to me graduating. I graduated in December and got a teaching job in January, and we found out we were pregnant with my first kid in February. And I did not want to stay home. I did not want to be a stay-at-home mom. And to my husband's credit, he did not force me or say, well, like put down an ultimatum or anything like that. He simply said, that's fine, I hear you. Will you just do me a favor and pray about it for me? Can you just pray about it? So I did, begrudgingly so. Whenever I was pregnant with my first, the very worst symptom that I had was exhaustion. And I have never been so tired in my entire life. Even with subsequent pregnancies, it will never top the exhaustion I felt with him. And so it was getting to the point where my principal needed to know if I was coming back the next school year or not. And eventually I just did what every good little Christian girl does. I went out and found a quiet spot and prayed, and then did the flip and turn method. And I think that probably everyone, if you grew up in the church, knows what that is. You just open up your Bible and point, kind of, and just see. And my fingers happened to land on Psalm 123, which is the psalm that says, lo, children are a heritage from the Lord, blessed is the man whose quiver is full of them. That is in that psalm. But I believe above it, before you get to that part, it says something about, in vain they rise up early, in vain they rise up early and go to bed late, toiling for food to eat. For the Lord grants sleep to those he loves. And as hilarious as that was, I knew that that was what I was supposed to read at that point, because in my head I thought, I'm so tired. There is no way I can work a job and have a baby. I'll never sleep. I'm exhausted. And I ended up staying home. And then it took that year of me staying home with my little one for God just to really work on my heart and give me a heart for being at home. Because I never, ever saw myself as a stay-at-home mom. Not once had I ever thought that's something I would be doing. And I did not really know or understand the importance and the beauty of that. And so God took that first year of his life and kind of just broke down me and what I thought defined me, which was being a teacher and an educator, and built me back up in a way that was just so unexplainable. And he was just so good and merciful to me. But I had a lot of learning to do, not just with the physical things of how to be a homemaker, but also just with the emotional, spiritual aspects of what that means and what the responsibilities are for myself and for my kids and for my husband. So it was a good year of learning for me. And I tell y'all that because it leads into the next decision, which would eventually be, what are we going to do about school? My oldest was about 3. We started really trying to figure out what we were going to do about school. By that point, God had been working on my heart for 3 years and just really showing me the beauty of home. And so we were really thinking very, very carefully about homeschooling. My husband was homeschooled 3rd grade through 12th by his parents back in the dark ages of the 90s. And that was something that they never thought that they would do, and kind of just felt called to it, and wondered their way through it. And so he did have that experience with him, and he knew what was hard about it, but also in the ways that it benefited him. I grew up going to a very small, very, very small public school, and loved every bit of it. And just this really tight-knit little community that I had been raised in, where I knew where all the teachers went to church and what they believed and all of these different things. So I always said for a long time that I felt like I went to the closest thing to a private school that you could get into in a public school in general. So I knew the benefits of being able to go to a school. And so we really felt kind of a little bit torn. And I think when he was about 3 was the first time we heard about the university model school, which is where kids go to school part-time and then they're homeschooled part-time, and the school and parents work in tandem. So with my husband being homeschooled, we obviously knew the benefits of that, as well as the challenges and some of the things that are hard. But with my public school, but very small and very specific school experience that I had personally growing up, we knew the benefits of being in a classroom that you can't necessarily replicate in a homeschool setting, such as going and listening to another adult and learning how to do that, or learning how to be in a room of your peers and listen to someone, how to be a good audience. It's also sometimes, I think, kind of harder for students, I know, like my oldest, to not be able to compare how he's doing to others around him, and to learn. You do learn things based off of how others are acting, and there's some good benefit to a little bit of herd mentality. And like, I'm talking, he's getting out his pencil to write down what's on the board to put in his planner. I'm going to do the same thing. You know, stuff like that you just kind of learn by watching, that you can't necessarily replicate in your own home. Now, none of those are reasons I would say to just send your kid to school willy-nilly, but those were benefits. So like I said, my oldest was 3 when we really started praying about what we were going to do school-wise, and then we heard about the university model, and that really appealed to both of us, and we really liked it. There is a much larger backstory that goes into this, but I'm not gonna spend time saying it here. However, one thing led to another, and by the time he was 5, there was a school in the town that we were living in that was a traditional 5-day-a-week private school, and they caught the vision of what a UMS school type scenario could be, and they loved the idea, the administrators and the people who ran this particular school. And so the year my son was entering kindergarten was the year that they started doing what they ended up calling a collaborative education program, or CEP. So the collaborative education program meant that my little kiddo was going to be going to school on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and then we were going to homeschool him on Mondays and Fridays. And that was so amazing. First of all, just because we really felt such a huge answer to prayer for something we have been praying for 2 years, and that was just really neat and just such a kind of a cool God wink, in that like he heard us and he cared about even this little tiny thing. And then it was just an amazing experience for us. He is a very social kid, and he's so kind and sweet and generous, and so just going to school and learning more about being a good friend and having a good time, while also being in this very small, very quaint private school setting, was an amazing experience for him as well. Now, I will say that first year we physically had to go up and write a check out, and it's still private school, and so even though it was the cheapest private school in our little area, and it was made even cheaper because we were only there part-time, it was still income that we gave up. But at his kindergarten graduation, whenever they sang their sweet hymns and they did and went over all the verses that they memorized, and then because their class sizes were so small, the teacher would call up each kid individually and they would give them a character quality that they saw throughout the year in that particular kid. And every kid had a different character quality, and the teacher would spend about 2 to 3 minutes on this kid in front of everyone, saying why they got this one and maybe giving examples as to how that character quality was displayed throughout the year. And I remember at the end of that little kindergarten graduation, looking back at my husband and saying, worth every penny. That was worth every penny. We thoroughly enjoyed that, and just working together in tandem with the teachers at the school there. So that is what we did for the next 2.5 years. Our kiddo completed all of his kindergarten year there and all of his first grade year there, and then the first semester of his second grade year. And his brother, that is right underneath him, completed his first semester of kindergarten with him as well. And I believe firmly, had we ended up staying in that little city, that all of our kids would have indeed possibly have ended up going there, and I would have ended up teaching there to kind of help offset the cost. But God had different plans. So about midway through the first semester of my son's second grade year, I started feeling a call to homeschool, just a little one, but I was a little bit ignoring it and just thinking, no, God, we love our little school. We love it so much, and we did. But I really feel as if God was just being so gracious just to kind of prepare my heart for what he knew was coming, because towards the end of that first semester, around November-ish, we found out that my husband's job was going to be changing, and he took a job with a new company that was going to try to start working its way into the area in the hometown where he grew up. So it was an opportunity we could not pass up at all. So we ended up moving back to my husband's hometown. Now, this is a bigger city than the one we were living in previously. So there were a few more options with school, including 2 different options similar to what we had just left. However, they were quite a bit more expensive. And since we left in the middle of the year, our school that we left from sent all of their consumable work with them. Those precious teachers went through and pulled every single lesson page out and the things that they could pull out and send with us, and gave us a file folder and sent it with us as we moved away. We moved in the middle of January, and that is when we began full-time homeschooling. We really did not want to go and just stick them in anywhere either, and I knew I could finish it out. So that is what we ended up doing. And that, I am not going to lie, that first semester of full-time homeschooling, we learned a lot, but it was also really hard and really on everyone. We had moved away from a school that we loved, with friends that we loved, and a church that we loved. And we also had neighbors right across the road and right next door to us that both had 9-year-old boys, which is the age my son was. So it was really, really hard to go from having a big major friend group to being home full-time and know no one. And to make matters even harder, we were trying our best to find a church, to figure out where we were going to go. And so I look back at that semester and my heart's just a little heavy, just because of all the new and all the hard. But God, once again, was still so gracious, because we did complete that year and we did learn so much. But we had a decision to make. What were we going to do? Were we going to attempt to find a school similar to the one that we had just left? Were we going to continue full-time homeschooling? We did not feel okay with sending them to a public school. So we definitely spent a lot of time just praying about it. And I'm not gonna lie, there were times within that first semester that I thought, maybe this isn't for us. Maybe homeschooling isn't for us. Maybe we're supposed to send them to public school. Like, and you know, you just doubt yourself so much. And so I just wanted to let you know that if those thoughts are running through your head, you are not alone at all whatsoever. So after a lot of prayer, we decided that until my youngest was school aged, that we probably would end up just being full-time homeschoolers, but we would always take it year by year. So that set us out on the journey, which is where we were last year. So last year was our first full year of full-time homeschool. And to say I was nervous going into it was an understatement. It's a lot to have it all riding on you, to make all your curriculum decisions and see that you're covering everything, and you know, it's just a lot. It's a lot to learn. It's like drinking out of a fire hydrant, and this is coming from someone who had an education background. But we made it, and I learned so much. I learned so much. I have learned what I do like and what I don't like. We joined a co-op, but then of course in March, everything kind of changed and went haywire with the pandemic. So everything went to Zoom, and co-op kind of just fell by the wayside for me, because I was just trying to get our daily life done, which now brings us into this current year. So this is our second year of full-time homeschooling, and that's why I say that at the beginning of every video. I want to say we've been homeschooling from the beginning, because in a way we have. Since my kid was in kindergarten, we have been homeschooling him in some capacity, but it wasn't truly full-time until the second half of second grade. But that's a lot to put at every single intro. So I have just decided to say this is our second year of full-time homeschool. So that is kind of a very brief synopsis of our homeschool journey in our homeschool story and how we ended up where we are today. I don't know what the future holds. I do know that we are doing exactly what we are called to do right now, and that is as much as you can ask for, I feel like. I do also know that I really did enjoy the tandem working alongside another school. I did enjoy the aspect of sending him to a place that had my complete trust and faith that they were going to love my boy and they were going to educate him too. I remember when my oldest accepted Christ, I wrote in his folder that he was going to school the next day. So I wrote a note to his teacher and I told her the news. And I said, you know, make sure that you tell her. And of course he was able to tell his whole entire class that he had accepted the Lord. And the teacher wrote back in his folder, we have been praying for this. I'm so excited, you know, and just to know that someone besides myself was praying for my kid was wonderful. So it wouldn't surprise me if at some point we maybe ended up doing a more UMS type of schooling sometime in the future. But at the same time, I have really enjoyed the freedom that homeschool gives us. So that is our homeschool story and kind of how we got to where we are currently. If you like this video, then please consider giving it a thumbs up and subscribing if you have not subscribed yet, so you can know when I post new stuff. The notification bell will also just alert you if there's a new video that I have put out, if that so entices you. Also, if you have any questions or comments or anything like that, don't hesitate to leave them in the comment section below. I really have enjoyed just getting to know this community through the comment section and conversing with y'all. You can also find me over on Instagram at My Cathedral Garden, just the name of my channel, and shoot me a message there. And I would love just to get to know more of you. My heart is for moms and homeschool moms and women in general, and so it has been a real joy just to have those conversations that I wouldn't necessarily get to have. All right, thank you all so much, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye guys.